Well, I'm excited to begin our Olympic-themed preaching series today. I have been a fan of the Olympics since I was a little girl, and one of my favorite events to watch is track. I especially like watching the moments in a relay race when one runner passes the baton on to another runner, because I know from watching my brother in high school that a good handoff is crucial to winning a relay race. And a dropped baton is a disaster. The Olympic torch relay started in Olympia, Greece last April. And did you know that 11,000 people will pass that torch along from person to person to person before it reaches its destination in Paris? Well, these relays got me thinking about what it is that we pass on. Some of you might find humor in this cartoon where a son is introduced to what will be passed on to him. Well, that man might be a hoarder, but a lot of us just find it to be fun to collect something. It's a hobby. There's the thrill of the hunt, waiting for the next piece to become available. It's satisfying to complete your set. When my sons were missing one particular pound puppy from the McDonald's Happy Meal collection, I called around to other McDonald's to see who might still have one. And when I found somebody, I told them to save it for me. Then I buckled the kids in their car seats and drove all the way to the Twin Cities, an hour away, just for that. I was on a mission. For the kids, of course. Well, how about you? Do you have a collection? State quarters, mugs, train sets, maybe Christmas ornaments? And have you thought about what will happen to it after you're gone? Or when you have run out of room to store it all? Do you have something of value that you would like to pass on to someone else? I'm sure that my sons will be pretty excited to get these babies someday from me. My Happy Meal collection is vintage now. But on a more serious note, there's a common story that I have been hearing from some of our older folks about china sets. I hear the sadness in their voices as they tell the story of dishes that were passed down from generation to generation. They hold memories of family holidays when everyone was together, or of getting married and having all of your guests contribute a piece to complete your collection. One woman lamented about how her dishes had been a gift from her late husband. He brought them back for her when he was a soldier in Vietnam. And now, the people that she wants to pass them on to don't even want them. It's breaking her heart. I think that there might be something deeper going on here for her and for others of us like her. Perhaps a rejection of our valuables feels like a rejection of ourselves. Maybe we hope that if something of ours remains in our loved ones' homes, we'll be remembered, and all of the time spent collecting or preserving something will not be a waste. We all want to be recognized and to feel like we have something of value that we have passed on to our loved ones. Even a child wants the picture that they proudly colored to stay on the refrigerator door after they have gone. They want to be recognized and remembered and valued as much as anybody. But papers get lost, and collections end up in storage or secondhand shops. One person's treasure is another one's burden sometimes. And similarly, I think it's hard for churches right now. We have rituals and traditions and programs to pass on that have been meaningful throughout all our history for a variety of people, even people today. So it can be disheartening when programs and ministries that we have cherished see declining attendance and enthusiasm. For a lot of people these days, to participate in church might feel a little bit like inheriting someone else's collection. Those who are disconnected from church don't share the same memories or nostalgia as those who are connected do. So those programs and traditions might not hold the same meaning for them. When we all have different likes and dislikes and styles and needs, it's hard for the churches to know what to do next. Will we end up dropping the torch of faith altogether someday? No. Thankfully, we can have hope because the power is not in the torchbearers themselves or in their abilities or their figuring it out, but in the flame that they hold, Jesus Christ, the light of the world. Our scriptures today provide some insight for passing on the torch of faith. In 2 Timothy, the Apostle Paul is speaking to a younger man named Timothy. Paul is a mentor to him. Paul speaks to Timothy, recalling the sincere faith that lived first in his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice. Paul urges Timothy to fan into flame the gift of God, recognizing both the legacy that he has received and his responsibility to keep it alive. In John 3, John the Baptist acknowledges his role in preparing the way for Jesus, saying, Jesus must increase and I must decrease. John's humility and recognition of his part in God's greater story show us the importance of unselfishness in passing that torch. It's not about our glory or our memories, but about pointing to Jesus, who is above all, shining brightly, offering salvation, despite our weaknesses, insecurities, or doubts. So how does one become a torchbearer of faith today? I have 3 things for us to consider this week. First, you could be like Lois, Eunice, and Paul, whose love for Jesus was expressed through loving young Timothy. They invested in him relationally, and then they pointed out to Timothy the gifts of God that they saw in his life. Secondly, you could be like Timothy, who didn't take the gifts of God for granted, but took responsibility to grow and to learn in community. He fanned the flame of the gift, and he discovered new ways to minister in his own unique style to others. Thirdly, you could be like John the Baptist, who humbly and selfishly pointed to Jesus instead of himself. He accepted that Jesus' light and love were moving in new ways that he could not control and could not contain. In closing, I would like to share a story of the Special Olympics and how one of our very own athletes is passing the torch of faith in his community. Gavin Putzier is an 8th grader and a member of, next slide. That's not Gavin. There must be a problem. Anyway, in closing, I would like to share a story of the Special Olympics. You can imagine a picture of that. Gavin Putzier is an 8th grader and a member of Bethel Lutheran Church. Gavin has been involved in the Special Olympics. It's something that he and his whole family enjoy. Gavin has found that God has given him gifts and strengths that help him to run his races. Gavin depends on the support of his community, his family and friends, and even his support bear, Hot Chocolate. Gavin and his fellow athletes cheer for each other and celebrate their collective victories. The Special Olympics is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and their anniversary theme is Inclusion Revolution. Recently, Gavin took that to heart when he tried something new that took a lot of courage and unselfishness. He accepted an invitation to speak to kids in 4 different elementary classrooms. And his goal was to tell about how the Special Olympics had been meaningful in his life and to encourage them to get involved too. Some of the benefits might be developing physical fitness and courage, joy, friendship, and community. Gavin didn't just keep this blessing to himself. He used his gift of an open heart to invite others to be included in whatever events would be meaningful to them. Those kids that he invited might do something completely different than he does, and that's just fine. The Special Olympics says that the important thing is striving to create a better world by fostering the acceptance and inclusion of all people. Well, that sure sounds a lot like Jesus' mission too, doesn't it? Imagine a community where each one of us is committed to passing on the torch of faith in Jesus, where we believe that Jesus came to save people, not programs and policies. So we're open to trying new things, even if it's uncomfortable. Imagine a church where everyone is included just as they are. And the way we create meaning is by sharing in the ups and the downs of life together, as messy as it might be. When we devote ourselves to an inclusion revolution, the light of Jesus' love is shining, and our lives tell his story. So let's not hesitate for a minute to reach out and pass it on. Praise be to God. Amen.